Bart. It's so good to see you again. How are you doing?
Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. Thanks for having me for this coffee conversation.
Yes, yeah. And I must just ask, how are you doing during this crisis?
These are special times. It's difficult to say. We're still I'm from Belgium, so we're in lockdown since a couple of weeks, and I think people are getting a little bit tired of this lockdown. So I have I'm having different emotions going through me. It's difficult to really express where my mind is, to be honest. And how about you?
We're doing okay, but we're getting a little bit of that quarantine fatigue as well. But fortunately for us, the weather is starting to improve, so that's helping lift our spirits and lifting the things that we can do. So, well, good. Well, I'm glad to know you're doing well, and just so excited to have this conversation with you. It all really started after I watched a webinar that you and your team put together on how brands can emerge stronger after the COVID crisis. And you and I kind of picked up a conversation,
Right.
went to a discussion about the consumer journey. So I'm really glad that we get to continue that and share that with others as well. So, but can you just first share a little bit about your background and what led you to Hashting and the work that you do?
Right. So I'm a CPG marketer. So I'm a Henkel baby. So the German company Henkel, big consumer goods company, um, and I've been working there for a couple of years. And then I decided to switch to the French side. The French side being Danone, so the yogurt company, and it was really fun. And soon after, I I got this vibe I needed to be an entrepreneur. So I first joined a startup company who was specialized in word of mouth marketing, which is now like influencer marketing. When it was like fresh, arriving in Europe. And then a couple of years later, I decided to launch Hashting because, in fact, I'm a frustrated marketeer. So on the one hand, I love data. I'm very analytical. I love data, and I love also the emotional side of marketing. But as a marketer, I was frustrated because there were disconnects in between marketing and sales, and between what you feel you have to do in marketing versus the data you can get. So, and Hashting is, let's say, born out of this frustrations, and that's why my ambition is to make marketing more data driven, to work more and better on the ROI of marketing, because it's still, even now in 2020, it's still a big problem. So and the solution, and what Hashing is about building consumer journeys that connect marketing to sales to advertising, that connect online to offline, that connect brands, consumers, and retail. That's my passion.
That's great. That's great.
And I think you're having a similar kind of background, which is what connecting us.
You're right. You're right. Similar to you, I started in consumer packaged goods for Procter and Gamble and worked there almost 20 years. So I think our careers line up pretty well. And I spent a lot of time working in brand management and marketing for a lot of beauty care brands and personal care brands. So brands like Pantene and Clairol and Olay and Always and Tampax. And so, but similar to you, I had an itch to venture out and try something different. And, when I really looked at my career and my passions, they always centered around marketing to women. And so that's really where I decided that I wanted to go even deeper in the next stage of my career. And so the work that I do is helping brands market more effectively to women. And I love it. I love the insights that women give us. They're so deep and rich. And then I love quickly determining how we can put that into action. So very, very similar background. And but
Right, exactly. And I was triggered a lot, or almost intrigued by marketing towards women. And when I heard about this, I wanted to know more about it. And the more you were talking to me about marketing to women, the more I saw some similarities or implications that are very relevant in today's situation.
yeah. So Bart, I'd love it if you could share, some of the opportunities that you see brands have during this crisis. You shared several of them in your webinar, which I found really fascinating, but can you kind of highlight a couple that you think are especially meaningful to marketers today?
Right. So yeah, we're working across the globe, like in more than 20 countries for CPG companies. So we're in on a daily basis in touch with those companies, and of course these are special times, and almost nobody has ever lived this kind of times before, and I think most of us feel that some things are going to change. There's some radical things that's going to happen, and also with our clients, you saw the first reactions, which are mostly like panic reactions, and you see studies coming up. And so my first reaction was, okay, this is a crisis, but I'm a very positive person and optimistic person. So whenever somebody says crisis, I say opportunity. And so this is why I was starting to do some research on this. And there's a lot of research out there on how to turn a crisis into an opportunity, or differently said, how to see and seize the opportunities that lie in a crisis. And I was really intrigued by that. And so that's why I decided to just bundle all the research that we've done and all the conversations we had with our clients into some short, let's say, insights or opportunities. And the opportunities I see, the first one is there's a huge opportunity to outperform competitors during times of crisis. And research on past recessions are showing it, like strong brands, they come out stronger, even stronger. They thrive in the long term, whereas the others, they struggle. And so, for instance, outperforming a competitor can be outspending. A lot of brands, they go dark, they stop advertising, they're losing connection with the clients, with the customers. So there's a big opportunity to like jump in and make a mark. Not a while ago, we're sitting here because everybody's in lockdown, so we're watching television, and my wife, she's working for a publishing company, and so there was usually when it's prime time, so more people than ever are now watching prime time television. And so we were looking at the commercial section, let's say, and usually there are like 8 to 10 commercials of different brands. There were only 5, and 3 of them were from the publishing company, promoting their own magazines and stuff. So going dark when times are in fact, it's when your competitors go dark and media is cheaper than ever. It's now the time to stand up and to outperform your competitors. Similar reasoning is on customer retention. So what we see today happening is that price sensitivity is high. People are losing jobs, price sensitivity is high, so there's a lot of switching behavior. So now is the time to invest in customer retention. But how can you invest in customer retention when you go dark? So very strange times. So, but I think the opportunities to outspend, but maybe even more importantly, to outsmart your competitors.
Yeah.
And what I see in these times of crisis is there's going to be an acceleration of trends. It's not so much about new trends, but it's more an acceleration of existing trends, or the trends for which there have been already seeds planted, but now you see them like bam. And one of the things that I see is like growth marketing, which is coming from Silicon Valley. This is how tech startups are growing and are thriving. And growth marketing is about rapid experimentation. It's not about big strategies, but it's a lot of trial and error, and it's more a mindset of doing so much experiments and learning from it, and learn fast and drop what doesn't work and scale what works. And this is a big contrast with marketing, which is usually pretty slow. So I see there's a big opportunity to outsmart your competitors because there's a huge pressure on marketing spend and on ROI. So I think there lies a big opportunity into outperforming your competitors by outsmarting them. And the third dimension is, in fact, to just be faster than your competitors. So what Seth Godin said was, are you going to react, respond, or initiate? And I think initiating change, the ones that are doing it right now, the long-term change, they're going to take a big head start over the competition. So I think outperforming competitors is something that these are the perfect times to do so. So there's a big opportunity. And the second one is in fact an opportunity which what I call like O2O is the new omni-channel. And it's based on a feeling I've had since a couple of months, like things were changing. And omnichannel is a concept coming from sales and the retail environments, where brands once that digitization and web shops were coming up and taking bigger share, the brands or the retailers, they realized it's not about either offline or online sales. They realized, okay, we have to be omnipresent, like omnichannel, we have to be everywhere. But I think now what you're going to see is that marketing should also be omni-channel, not only on the sales part, but on where to connect with the consumer. So it's not about just connecting online with a consumer, which was last couple of years getting common practice, but also connecting offline. And the reason why I see this now accelerating is because in the first part of the crisis, when the lockdown was there, all of a sudden brands who were not able to drive online sales, they were suffering. And they needed to connect online to drive online sales. But then in the second part, or the part where we are now, when the lockdown is going to be lifted soon, it's about driving online to offline sales, like connecting with the target group, driving all offline sales. I think there's going to be a drive to store battlefield to make up some missed sales, and so that's going to be pretty intense. And then of course when people start going out, the offline connection and driving offline sales is going to be again important. So it's not about just like, do I have to be either online or offline, or driving online or offline sales? It's everything. It's all the O2O combinations. So that's why I was saying that O2O is a new omni-channel. So these are for me the two main opportunities for brands that lie in a crisis.
That's fascinating. I really think, to your point, it's like it keeps changing. And so, the importance of not just staying digital only or offline only, and it's, we're seeing it unfold. You've got to do both. So I think that O2O concept is especially true, but don't stay there too long. You've got to really read the market, and you may have to make adjustments quickly based on that. Makes a ton of sense. So Bart, every day you're working with global companies to really take a look at their consumer journeys and help optimize them, help improve the ROI, as you mentioned. And what are you seeing, what's changing on that consumer journey and the relationship between brand and consumer due to the COVID crisis?
Yeah, so it's going to be more a holistic approach. And when we were discussing having our first discussions, we're trying to find the right word that describes it, because there's a lot of tensions, let's say today, a lot of tensions in what brands need to do. So on the one hand, there is price sensitivity, so they need to be more affordable, and at the same time, they need to prove their extra value, their relevancy, their value. They have to add value. So how to combine both? Same for like being convenient, accessible, and at the same time customer service. There's also a tension between there. As I said before, like you have to be online, but also offline. You have to be everywhere. It's about recruiting consumers. It has always been about recruiting consumers, but nowadays there's a big focus on retention. So you have to acquire consumers, but also retain the current consumers. It's not about choosing. And also in terms of tone of voice towards consumers, you need to reassure them, use the right tone of voice, but at the same time you need to like convince them to buy your brand. So you need to be reassuring and convincing. So as a man, this is for me difficult to cope with. As a man, I'm more the rational part. I get it, but how to balance all of this? And then this is where I was intrigued by what marketing towards women can do, or what can we learn from marketing towards women that is relevant today, Amanda?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think there's quite a few things about women. I mean, first of all, women are the bellwether for the economy. And so I think it's really smart to dive in and see what trends and what insights lie with women, because they hold a prominent place in the economy, quite frankly. Women they're a powerful population when it comes to purchasing decisions. And so you talk about these tensions, and women are experiencing these tensions that you're mentioning.
Right.
But they're also a primary decision maker. They are making the primary spending decisions on major categories like electronics, automobiles, investments, household purchases, as an example, home improvement, travel. And these are the same industries that economic advisors are studying closely during this COVID crisis, right? And these are the industries that are determining the health of the economy. And women are the ones that are making the primary decisions in those industries. So they're really important during this time to take a look at and to really understand women's decision making because of
Right.
this importance.
They're like the key to the wallet.
Exactly. So not only are they influential in the purchase decision, but they're large. Bart, like women are the population of women is 3 times as big as all of the other minority populations combined. So
Right.
they have, it's not just a drop in the bucket, it is a huge ripple effect that women's decision making on products and purchases has.
I get why you're so passionate about it.
You can tell. I mean,
I can tell.
I don't think all industries realize and think about women having so much purchasing power. And what's really fascinating is, to your point, women hold the purse strings. They actually are responsible for about 75% of all checking accounts that are out there.
Oh,
So,
really?
so you're right. Like, they are controlling where the money is going. They're also, more developed in business startups, recent business startups as well. So, you know, when you talk about these changes that are happening as a result of the COVID crisis, women are a really, good population to really understand what trends are going to start to unfold. The other thing going on right now during this crisis is women are carrying an extra burden. In fact, I just read another article this morning about it. Women are overdeveloped in being frontline healthcare workers. So more
Yeah.
than 70% of healthcare workers are female. So think
Oh,
about the
really?
burden that women are carrying. Yeah. Women are more likely to be home, at home during this time, still doing the housework, still doing the meal planning, likely helping with their homeschooling for their children. And they're doing this while they're all still trying to weigh their day job, right? And
Right.
the burden that they're carrying right now is extra heavy, quite frankly.
Right.
But you talk about, though, the shift that you're seeing in the consumer journey to being more holistic, and women are a really good area to study when it comes to holistic journeys, because biologically, women's brains are wired differently than men's. Surprise. Uh,
Yeah. I found out it this couple of years ago. So yeah,
when you
I
got
can
married.
agree with that.
Exactly.
Women are different. They're thinking differently. That's an open door, but how is it applicable to today's situation?
Yeah, that's right. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? But
Exactly.
interesting is, women's brains they're actually wired to use their left and their right brains more evenly. So they're both rational and emotional in their decision,
Right.
a bit more than what you see from men. You mentioned it as well. And so when we talk about the consumer journey shifting to being more holistic, this is how women are wired to think and make decisions more holistically. And that's why they're such a great group to study during this time as well.
Right. I think that like women have always been the foundation of our community, our society, and in times of crisis, as you were saying, I think it's even more pronounced than ever before, and they're more, should I say, capable of coping with this kind of crisis than men?
They're certainly resilient. They're used to juggling a lot of balls. Quite frankly, they're used to being at the center of it. Women are generally wired to serve others first. So they're certainly capable, but at the same time, women need to be taken care of during this time as well. And, I think if a brand or a product can really leverage some common insights about women, you can help make her life a lot easier during a time that, quite frankly, is, it's challenging for everyone. It's especially challenging for women. So there are some things brands can do to really help win her over during this time.
Right, exactly. And it made me think about when we talk about consumer journeys, and at Hashting, we're always talking about, like, you need to connect with consumers, you need to convert to purchase, and you need to engage with them. And what I see is that most marketers, they're like doing one of the things in more the side of thinking, like being either connecting to the consumer, which is then online. They're happy to have a connection, meaning like a like or a follower. That was like, whoa, objective achieved.
Yeah.
But then there's a phase of conversion. That's also really important. But very often, when a consumer walks into a store, this person turns into a shopper, and it's part of the trade marketing and the sales department. But then, when you continue the relationship with the consumer and you go into an engagement phase, this is again marketing. So it goes from advertising, let's say, to sales, and then it goes back to marketing. And I was intrigued by this holistic approach and combining things that are difficult to combine, or making links that not everybody can do. This is where I was intrigued by your expertise in female marketing, or marketing towards women. So when looking at this, like connect, convert, continue, what do you think? What can we learn again from marketing towards women that applies here?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely, there's several things you can learn. First is, on the connect part. The first thing with women is, as I mentioned, they're extremely busy right now, carrying a lot of burdens, and so they're physically multitasking, and quite frankly, they're mentally multitasking as well. And
Right.
so, you know how that is. You ask your wife something and she's like, what? And because there was a lot going on, she was multitasking in her mind. And so, similar to what you said earlier, Bart, it is really important that brands continue to advertise during this time, because she has even more things going on in her life where she is multitasking. And so it is critical to even consider increasing your level of communication to women, because the risk of breaking through is real with so much going on in her life. And I think also being very holistic in your approach as well with your media plans is important, because again, she's multitasking. She may only be half listening. And so you've got to really try to catch her in those moments where she's paying a bit more attention.
Right.
The other thing when I think about the connect stage with women is, it's really important to ladder up to macro benefits. So even before the COVID crisis, women are generally motivated by several things. One is community in the world. Two is serving her family and improving her family's lives. And the third one is maximizing her time. Those are kind of three macro benefits we tend to see, and ultimately why.
Yeah, I
Makes sense,
totally
right?
agree.
And so what's interesting to me, Bart, is I've had a lot of conversations recently with brands that are struggling to figure out, what should my message be next, right? And I really think focusing on these macro benefits can really help a brand resonate with women during this time. And these benefits have become even more important during this crisis.
Right.
The other thing I would say in this connect stage, and it goes back to your comment about being more holistic, is women really respond to storytelling. They don't want to just be sold product benefits, but they want to hear a story. They want to know the history, the background.
Right.
They want to have both
So
that
true.
rational and irrational story. And so now is a great time to go from maybe just selling your product to telling your brand and your product story. It can really help break through. And then
Right.
certainly the tone of voice. Women, interestingly, women want to be indispensable, not independent. Women want to talk to connect versus just communicate. Women want to be respected rather than admired. And so, really looking at your tone of voice right now and ensuring that you're in line with those insights, I think is a smart move.
Right, and maybe to build further on your point, like we did a short survey on marketers in preparation of the webinar, and this is where they were struggling with most in the beginning of the lockdown. Like most of them want to reach out to their target group. They were very unsure on how to reach out to them. what is the right tone of voice? And in the ebook, we said it's about standing for, standing up, and standing out at the same time. So yeah, I fully agree with your point. Like tone of voice is pretty difficult.
I love
Find the right tone of voice.
it really is. And obviously, I think people feel a level of risk with experimenting in this area right now. But I think speaking with women will help kind of give you the ability to strike the right balance. So
True.
the next area that you talked about in the consumer journey is converting. And, converting women is, there's several insights here that I think can really help during this crisis. First, as I mentioned, because of that balanced brain biology, women are looking at both rational and emotional factors. And so I think oftentimes as marketers, we're really good at sharing the rational factors, right? Our product works faster,
Yeah.
our product is better. But now is a time to really pepper in some of these emotional elements to help convert her. Things like testimonials from a real person, a human. Ratings and reviews are also really important because they're coming from people like her. And so I think now is a really good time to think about how you can amplify your rational messaging with some of these more human elements as well.
Right.
At the same time, women are very rational in their decisions as well. They carry both. And again, when I think about storytelling, women want to know the benefits of a product. They don't need to know the features. They just want to know, what is it going to do for me, right? They don't need to know how the camera works. They just want to know that it's going to hold, thousands of their children, as an example. So that's critical. And, I think related to that, product demos continue to be really compelling with women. They sell the benefit, right? Rather than the feature. So I
Exactly.
keep doing that.
It reminds me, sorry to interrupt you, but it reminds me when I started working at Henkel, I was responsible for the Schwarzkopf brand, which is like hair coloration, hair dyes. And was one of my struggles. Like as a man, I was looking in a very rational way to the brand, like, oh, this is better because of this and this and this and this, or whether this kind of ingredient. But in the end, it's about how it makes women feel and look. It's about their appearance. And I invested a lot in product demos because of that. So just a short breakout.
Exactly. You've got to do both. It's not just rational. It's got to be rational and emotional, to your point. The other insight about women that I think is really important in the convert stage is they like to do research prior to purchases. And so this means their purchase decision timeline can be longer than average. They might want to do some online research. They might want to ask some friends. They might ask coworkers what their experience has been. They might go into the store, to your point, the O2O, and talk to the store associate. So they're collecting a lot of research. And so, what brands can do to kind of expedite that decision making are a couple of things. One, deadline-driven promotions, right? Any way to really, that will speed up her decision-making. I think the cosmetic industry has done this so well. Clinique and the special gifts, the limited purchase is an excellent example of this. Also simplifying the choices for her. If there's so many choices, she almost becomes paralyzed by analysis.
Right.
And with technology today, there's so many options. But really thinking about a few simple choices that can also help for decision making as well.
Yeah, true. I think if you really want to torture a man, put him in front of like a makeup shelf or even a makeup aisle. I think is the best torture you can do.
There's so many choices, right? And so streamlining can definitely help speed up that decision-making process as well. So those are a few things. I think one last comment I'll make on converting is women are, as I mentioned, one of those macro benefits is they're looking out for their family. They want what's best for their family. And so if your product has a benefit, not only to her as an individual, but to her family, that is worth sharing. I recently spoke with a woman who was searching for a new car, and she was looking for a certain number of seats in the car because she wanted to make sure not only her immediate family could ride in the car, but her parents could join them in the
Oh,
same
really?
as well. And that's such, to me, that story
It's
is,
very thoughtful.
yeah, it's a great example of realizing she wasn't just buying for herself, she was buying for her extended family as well.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. And then, I think in the last stage on continue, the important insight about women in this stage is women are very loyal. They are very loyal. They've done all this research. Once they make a decision, they really want to remain loyal. It saves them
Right.
time, right? Which we know is a
True.
massive benefit.
Which is crucial, yeah.
Exactly. And we also know that women, like I said, they do a lot of research. They ask their inner circle very often for product recommendations and referrals. So the continuous stage of the journey that you shared is so important for women. Oftentimes, I think marketers stop after the convert stage. And with women, you could really be missing out on long-term
True.
sales, quite frankly. So things like after purchase services or warranties, super critical to women. If you take care of them right after that purchase, helplines, I think Apple does such a good job with this. After you purchase an Apple product, they send you a link to schedule an appointment with someone to walk through either
Nice.
some of the features. That's such an excellent example.
I've never bought an Apple product, so maybe I should consider buying one. I wasn't aware of that, but I do see a lot of loyalty and a lot of long-term Apple clients. Like our IT guy, I think he personally is responsible for an increase in the Apple stock rates. It's amazing, but okay.
It's true. They offer free classes.
Mhm.
You bring your device and you can sign up for a free class. So I think they do a phenomenal job around this after purchase service that again builds loyalty, especially with women. I think certainly loyalty programs, rewarding them for future purchases. Women love to feel rewarded for the decision that they made. But then
Right.
also thinking about how can you incent referrals and advocacy because women talk. So referral programs, even a simple surprise and delight thank you note or gift can go really far. And
Exactly, and then the refer a friend, the referral programs that resonates a lot with me because I've been working in word of mouth marketing for like 5 years, and this is the essence of word of mouth marketing or like peer to peer. People, they trust each other, and you would be amazed like how what percentage of sales. I think there's studies from McKinsey showing that half of the sales that a brand is doing is coming from referrals
right.
from people who trust each other. Yeah, it's really amazing. And we have recently done a campaign in the UK where we were able to show black on white that 40% of the sales were coming through referrals.
I mean, and I don't, I think this is one part where, you talk about being a frustrated marketer, measuring, measuring word of mouth and the return, it's challenging, right? And
Right.
so I think sometimes it takes a little bit of faith to dive into that and to commit and invest in word of mouth. But, clearly with technology now, I think you can track it even better than you ever could before, which is a huge acceleration from when I first started.
Exactly. And to add to your point, like this is one of the biggest sales drivers
Yeah.
that are fairly underestimated. And so the continuation of the relationship is really key because it will also lead again to another connection and a conversion and so on.
Exactly. I mean, think about your own story when you've had a great customer service experience. You talk about it to people. It stands out,
Right.
right? Or I know in our neighborhood Facebook page, someone's always looking for a referral for a painter, a plumber, et cetera. And if you had a great experience with someone, you recommend them. I mean, there are industries like that they rely on word of mouth, quite
It's
frankly.
true.
So the last thing I'll say on continue is, again, one of those macro benefits for women is how to maximize her time. And I think if brands and products can share content that have common hacks or additional uses, that can just make her life easier and save her time, that can also be a way to really strengthen that loyalty as well. So
Right.
a little bit about, how women's insights can really help create a more holistic consumer journey. And I think these insights, while they're very true for women, I also think they have a halo effect to men as well.
I couldn't agree more with you. So if people want to know more about your expertise on marketing towards women, is there something you can share with them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you want to dive deeper into insights about women, I have a complimentary free guide on 7 insights to strengthen your communication and your advertising to women. So we'll drop that in the comments to this video to make sure, but feel free to grab that, and you'll see several examples as well of brands that are covering each one of those 7 pretty well. So, and Bart, can you share more too? You mentioned you've collected insights in some of the research that you've been, uncovering these past couple of months to help brands during this time. So, can you share a little bit more about, what that is and where people can find it?
Right. So we created this like 25 pages e-guide to help guide brands through these rough times with a focus on how to accelerate, how to grasp the opportunities, and with another focus on plug and play solutions. Like we try to make it as tangible as possible. So there is, we'll drop the link below where people can sign up for the free e-guide.
That's great.
And always happy to discuss like we did. I really loved the coffee break we had. The only thing that was missing was the coffee.
I've got a drink here. Yes.
I was just sticking with water, so this was not a good example of a coffee break, coffee conversation.
Well, such a pleasure, Bart. It was so fun to dive into this with you. And again, I just really think the thought leadership that you're providing in regards to the changes in the consumer journey and how brands can really emerge from this crisis stronger, I think are really inspiring and actionable. So thank you for that. And I
Right, thank you, Amanda.
during this time.
All right, and thank you so much also for your very valuable insights and for opening up my eyes on how much value there is in looking or targeting women to grow your brand and communicate in a way more holistic way. So thanks again. It was really inspiring to me.
My pleasure.